Yeah.
So I'm here with CS Santosh. This is for a shoot for work. But I'm going to talk to him about Dakar. Let's see what he has to say. So, what was it like? Tell me about Dakar. We've read all about it, but let's hear it from you.
Well, the thing is about the Dakar is every day or week that I spend away from it, it's you lose a little bit of that memory that you had. So I'm barely able to hold on to everything that I remember. But I think the most interesting thing about the Dakar is it's the event is huge by itself, the competition and the race is legendary. But then when you're there, the atmosphere that there is in Argentina or even Chile or Bolivia that you go to is something that you can never imagine. And the people that I mean, you'll see like whole families, like even newborn infants and mothers and grandparents and everybody out on the streets at 3 or 4 in the morning, right? And then they're standing there just to get a glimpse of us doing the stage or doing transport. So when you see that, like you're like the feeling that you get from that experience is unbelievable. But this apart from that, obviously the racing is really serious. I mean, I think a lot of guys, even the top guys that do first, like enduro champions or whatever else disciplines that they come from, if you ask them what they want to finish in a Dakar, they always say, I want to first maybe try and finish, and then we'll see what happens. They build on that. So when the journalists asked me, they called me from before the start of the event. They called me and they said, "So what do you think your chances are at the Dakar?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to maybe I'll finish top 20." Like I didn't know. So I just said, "Yeah, I want to finish top 20 because I'd finished top 10 in the World Championship and all. I thought maybe top 20 is good enough to aim for." But then the first day you're there, you just realize like it's a whole new reality. And 14 days to be actually racing for that many kilometers, so many things can happen, in those many kilometers that you race, and you truly have to be there at the right place. I mean, at the right time for something else to fall into place, especially for me, because being the first time out, the chances of me not making are much higher than if I had a little bit of experience. The Dakar gets easier relatively because you need experience. And yeah, so for me, the biggest challenge was trying to draw a line between trying to be competitive and trying to make the finish. And being the first time out, I think because of how long and for the last 2 years we really struggled to be able to build up to the Dakar. So I knew the finish was the most important thing. But the stages and all that, they're insane. Like 430 kilometers or 450 kilometers, and it's like full off road. And you start sometimes. I remember on day 2 it was 550 kilometers competitive. So we start in the mountains, and it's like 8 degrees or something like that. It's freezing, and you start racing in the mountains, all single track, and you start working in about an hour and a half. You've already worked your way down the mountain, and you can see as you're racing the terrain starts to change, like the soil changes, the grip level changes. So the thing is, when you start getting into rhythm, you think, okay, I got this figured out, like I know what these mountain passes, and then the terrain will change, and then it becomes dusty, and then again it'll change, it'll go into shrubs. So every time you feel like you're getting rhythm going, it starts to change. And then finally we ended up in the desert. It was like 50 degrees, I think 48, 50 degrees on the second day, and everybody was saying in the bivouac there was actually talk about this stage. They were saying that they're going to have one of the toughest stages ever in the Dakar, and they were saying that it's going to separate the men from the boys, because from then on it just got really tough. The first day was easy, from then the second day till about 10 days from there was really tough. I hated a lot of it. I mean, I didn't take any joy from riding because I was struggling on the bike, and the terrain didn't make it any easier. But then I think after 10 days, you sort of get into rhythm, and I started to feel a lot better. So I think I had 3 good days in the end, which I really, when I was riding those 3 days, I was like, dude, I can't believe all this is going to be over. Like in the next 2 or 3 days, like it's all over. You go back to life. There's no more madness. What am I going to do with my time? That's the feeling that I had in the last 3 days. Yeah, so when you're there, you just want to go back home and finish this whole thing. But as you get along, you can't live without it. So that's something. I think that's why everybody always wants to come back to the Dakar.
Are you doing it again this year?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
This year we'll go back.
What used to be your average speed like?
There are stages. The last 3 days we averaged, I would say between, I think 90 and 120. It was like really fast stages. It was all in Argentina. Like it was just flat out everywhere. And when you're on those days when you're riding flat out, you have no runoff, and the only things that are waiting for you are trees and rocks. So you cannot, at those speeds, you can't look at the track in front of you. You have to look at the lay of the land. You have to look for like telltale signs of where the road's going to turn. You look at the light poles if they have, you know. So I mean, yeah, it's all instinct. Like if you want to do really well, it's instinct. You have to trust your instincts and trust the road book. They give you a road book, right? So in that road book, you sit and the previous night you actually go through all the instructions that are there. So you try and visualize what the stage might look like, and then you try and mark what is dangerous on the stage, what you think might be dangerous when you're riding. So you have to like completely rely on that and just your instincts, and you have to put a lot of faith in God, basically.
Riders have died during the Dakar,
Yeah.
and you sustained numerous injuries. What were you thinking when you like signed up for it? What were you feeling at that point of time?
I don't know. I mean, for last 2 years, everybody's always talking about the Dakar. Ever since I started doing the raid and the World Championship, and then for me, it wasn't even like I didn't even think about the Dakar actually. Like I said, when I signed up for the Dakar, I was not ready. Like I told the people that were supporting me, I said, "There's no way I want to do the Dakar. Like I'm not even ready. I've done 3 world rallies, and you want me to apply for the Dakar? Like it's no experience at all." But then it just so happened that one thing led to the next, and I had my application filed, and they accepted, and they sponsored my entry even, and like fuck, I have to do it now. So yeah, I went there totally unprepared, and but I think you have to wing it sometimes, like, so I just went with that, and yeah, I mean every year people, even this year, so this guy called Michael, he didn't finish the second day, and that was the end of him. Actually, Michael and me, we tested. He's a Polish guy, and the guys that were servicing, giving me service, also were Polish. So we went testing the day before the Dakar started, and I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe Michael didn't finish that day, you know. But anyway, it's. I think you don't process too much of the information when you do something like this. You hear it, it doesn't register. When I was there, I don't think anybody let it register. Like yes, people were shocked, but they didn't think about it too much. Yeah.
So, what are the kind of injuries you received, and at what stages, and how did you like? You have burns right now, and how did that happen, and how did you manage to ride after that?
The burn is easy, man. The burn was my first attempt at the World Championship. It was me trying to put together a small project together because we didn't have the funds. So when we said we'll still try and make it with whatever we have. So we cut a lot of corners, then went to the rally. I had no experience. I had never ridden in the Arabian desert. It's not like sand tracks. Like I went for testing. Nobody knows it, but I went testing the day before. Like I got 10 minutes on the bike before I went to the rally. I'd never ridden that bike before. And the rally bike is huge, you know, and it weighs 170 kilos, which is a lot because it's all off-road and the bike is just moving underneath you. So I went testing. They took me to the area next to Dubai where there were a lot of dunettes actually. They call them dunettes, which are like really small technical dunes. And I went there and I rode like for 2 minutes into the dunes and I got stuck. And I just realized that I'm just totally buggered because I have no skill whatsoever to read the dunes. And here I am trying to go and ride in Liva, which has some of the toughest dunes in the world, like the tallest dunes and the toughest dunes in the world. Yeah, so when I went there, I mean, first I don't know how I survived the first 2 days. I got stuck a lot of times. I was carrying my bike out of the sand, which I shouldn't have been doing, spending so much energy, but somehow I made it back first 2 days. The third day, the bike started to show signs because I was not riding it the way it was supposed to be ridden. It was under a lot of stress, you know, and it started to overheat. And that day I think was the hottest day. It was again in the 40s, 45s, and there was some malfunction, and I was tired, and I didn't pay attention. Next thing you see, it is a small blue flame, and like there's a fire. Like I never even imagine. You know, you don't imagine a scenario where there's fire, and you're on fire on a motorcycle. At least I haven't imagined it. I thought about a lot of injuries that I could have, but it's never been that. So it took me like a good few seconds for it to register, and that was all this. And luckily for me, I think it's a freak accident. You know, it's not something that I could have prepared for. I think the biggest thing for me was that there was a huge effort that went into doing that rally, and I couldn't complete it. That hurt more than the fact that all this is physical pain, but the emotional trauma that I had to go through because of the effort that we put in was huge. So I had to make it back.
About the injuries that you sustained at Dakar, you just told us about one on the third day. Could
Yeah.
you just sum it up again and all of them that happened, what you went through to finish that rally?
So on the third day, I was excited because whenever you go to the dunes, I'm a really happy guy. It's dunes is something that you can be creative with. Like when you see dunes, it just lights up my face when I see it. So I love dunes. We came into dunes, and then I was getting a good flow, and I was trying to go as fast as I could, past a lot of guys, and I got really excited. And I said, in my head, I'm thinking, I feel like Sam Sunderland. Sam Sunderland is one of the fastest guys in the desert. He's from Abu Dhabi. He's a British kid. But he lives in the desert and he's the fastest guy. He'll fly over anybody's head. So there I am riding and thinking, fuck, I'm Sam Sunderland, like I'm just on the gas and everywhere. And then I was thinking to myself, this is what it feels like to be going really fast. And then I come around this drop, and then it starts to climb, and then the like small undulations along the way, and it was turning. So usually you want to get off and straighten it and then power again, but I just got in there and there's so much sand. I just gassed it all the way, and it started to hit the undulations. It started to swap left to right. On a motocross bike you can control it, but the rally bike has so much fuel that when it starts to swap, it starts to become like a pendulum. So it went from the left to the right to the left to the right, and it just went. Next thing I know, it's all over. And then I just get up and look. The bike is at least okay. First thing you check is the bike's okay. The bike is okay. It started and all that. Picked it up. By the time I realized something was wrong, I had this warm feeling. Uh, my jacket was wet and there was blood all over. And then I like fuck, what's wrong? And I put my hand here and it's just bleeding the whole time. And then I tried to do whatever they said. I think it's a bad thing to fucking lie on your head and try and stop it. So anyway, so I tried doing whatever I could. It wouldn't stop. Then I see the road book. I have the road book, right? So I scroll and I see I have 30 kilometers to go. So I calculated and I said, fuck, might as well try and go for it. Because no point in me waiting and trying to get someone to fix his nose. So anyway, I was bleeding the whole time. The whole bike was bloody. The full navigation system was getting blood sprayed all over and whatever it is. But I made it back. Broken helmet and all that. That was my first crash. But it felt good, It wasn't a crash that I would be disheartened because I thought to myself, I have some speed going now. So I was happy. But then the next couple of days was shit. I went to Chile. Chile is the worst desert you can ever ride in. It is apparently the driest desert in the world. Hasn't rained for thousands of years, and the soil is like talcum powder. There's no soil actually. The ground is like talcum powder. So you can have like knee length of dust. It's really fine dust, and it's like a mosaic. It just slips everywhere. Like the bike, if it's straight, it wants to do this. It wants to do this the whole time. And this, I'm not even turning it. Like I'm trying to keep it straight and wants to do this the whole time. So I fucking hated it. I crashed a couple of times in that, and on the fifth day I had one of those crashes where, in the Dakar you don't want to be. In the Dakar when I first started, I said, no, take it easy. It's 14 days. Bad move. Because if you take it easy from the first day, you get pushed back, and then there are guys in front of you who are slower than you, and when you start catching them, you have to pass them in the dust. In the dust, you cannot see shit, and it's really dangerous. So I was taking like all kinds of chances, which I shouldn't have been taking, and there was so much dust. So I don't know. There's one guy who was in front of me. He was a quad, so he was the last quad that I had to pass, and then I knew from then on it was just motorcycles that I had to catch. I said, man, just screw it. Let's catch this guy within the first 15 kilometers. When you start a stage, you try and read the terrain and see what it might be like for the next couple hundred kilometers or whatever it is. Even before I set in, I just decided to catch everybody, and I caught a couple of guys. The last guy was a quad. There was so much dust. He turned off into a riverbed, and I didn't see the riverbed. Like I just came in and it was a drop like that. I got on the brakes, everything. It just somersaulted into that riverbed, and then the one thing that you don't want is the motorcycle chasing you, which it did. It just followed me and just went slam on my foot. And when I picked it up, I knew straight away I was fucked. The Yeah, so I knew I was finished. It was 15 kilometers into the stage. So next 350 kilometers something like that, I struggled. And that day was one of the toughest stages where a couple guys got lost. Even the top guys were going in different directions like this because they were all lost. And there were like these big climbs that you had to make, and they, and the thing is that you have to ride with on the balls of your feet, especially because when it's really loose and rocky, you want to be as light as possible. And with this tour, it was just killing me the whole time. So that was the worst day I had. It remained pretty bad for the next 5 days until the 10th day when I started to find a little bit of speed. But until then, I didn't enjoy my time in Chile. Chile was the worst experience. It was just survival, honestly, in Chile. Like no racing.
Oh, and so you finished it. How did that feel when?
No, actually, I didn't process any of it when I finished. I remember day 8 or day 9 when it was really hard, and I'm there and I don't have anybody to talk to. I'm like the only guy, and there's all white guys everywhere. And I only had Sukhwant Basra from Hindustan Times. So he was my only sort of comfort. Like every day I'd come, I'd say a few words to him, he'd say a few words to me. That's the only comfort that I had. So I think a lot of shit, a lot of the stuff got built up. I think on the 7th or 8th day was really hard, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how much more I can do this. And then I was doing the transport. So we started like 4 in the morning in Chile along the coast. The coast is beautiful, like it's all ragged rocks and everything, and then there's this beautiful road along the coast. And I was just sitting there in my helmet and thinking about all the hardships that we took to actually get to the Dakar. That's the only time I got emotional. I thought to myself, what it would mean for me to make the finish for myself. And it was huge for me. That's the only time I processed it. After that, never thought about it.
So how's life changed after Dakar?
I don't know. I think it's changed quite a bit. I'm just a guy who likes to ride on a motorcycle, but I've somehow become more than that. So it's a little hard to understand all this. But I think it's necessary for me to do this because, in a way, this allows me to go back and do what I love, which is racing motorcycles.
Awesome. That's awesome talking to you. Thank you so much. Let's eat some food. Let's eat